What particularly intrigued me is that the platform reflects censorship input from Google and Twitter as well. So Facebook, as I understand it, Facebook censorship teams communicate with their counterparts at Twitter and Google and then enter those companies' suggestions for censorship onto the task platform so that Facebook can then follow up with them and effectively coordinate their censorship efforts.
Wow, something we knew intuitively, but to see it proven and admitted to by Zuckerberg there in an open committee hearing was amazing. Welcome back, everybody. Senator Josh Hawley there yesterday exposing potential collusion between Facebook, Twitter, and Google to control, well, what you and I see about voter fraud and other things online. For more on this, we're joined by Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, a watchdog organization that promotes government accountability and transparency, and they do it better than anybody else. Always great to see you, Tom. Before we get to voting integrity, can this be considered a free and fair election as we uncover more evidence about big tech and big media controlling what people see about voter fraud in the aftermath and the news stories we saw going into the election?
Well, we've never had such corporate interference in our elections in such a really biased way, where they were targeting those of us who raised questions about the security and risk of voter fraud and chaos that would be caused by the mail-in ballot schemes pushed out by the left. And they were censoring Judicial Watch. Obviously, they were censoring President Trump. And you had Twitter doing it, and you had Facebook doing it. You had Facebook actually destroying its business model in the sense of prohibiting advertising of the wrong type, meaning educational advertising to alert people about election integrity issues by Judicial Watch. Certainly, they're targeting the campaigns. Even over on Instagram, they restricted how their program works by restricting hashtags, because they didn't want any hashtags to be used to promote the wrong narrative. And the narrative is one that is at odds with the left-wing narrative. And if you're on the wrong side of the election debate, they will suppress you. And don't pretend it's neutral. Don't pretend it's fact-based. It's partisan. It's ideological. And frankly, it's not even based on fact. We know there's voter fraud. We know it's significant. We know it can materially affect the outcome of the elections. Facebook told us that they would prohibit any statement that said that voter fraud could impact materially the outcome of an election. How is that not interference in a core public policy debate around an election? And they're still prohibiting advertising that could alert people to what they can do to protect and protest voter fraud and the facts behind election integrity challenges.
Yeah, no kidding. And now we learned yesterday that they're colluding. They have tools in place to collude with one another. Absolutely amazing. Last time you and I spoke, you talked about the state of Michigan. You guys had an investigation that concluded 6,000 extra voters were on the rolls. Last night, GOP board members out there, these canvassers, were pressured into certifying these results, even though in places like Detroit, 70% of the ballots there were, well, what they called out of balance. I asked this of somebody who was on with us from Breitbart earlier, and I'll ask you the same question. Did they just certify voter fraud in Michigan?
Well, it's hard to tell, but when you've got numbers that don't match, that's an indication something's off. And by the way, it's 650,000 extra voters on the rolls in Michigan, not 6,000. So it's even it's 100 times worse. What happened in Michigan is my understanding of the law, and the controversy last night was the numbers need to match. The vote totals need to match the paper records, and that wasn't happening. And so they're not allowed to certify in those circumstances. And we're told, oh, doesn't matter what the law says, it's always ignored. Well, sorry, that's not good enough, especially in a close election like we have today. So we had a certification of vote totals that we know that there were discrepancies, and the law prohibited that certification, yet thanks to outrageous and arguably criminal pressure on these officials, they went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah, Absolutely amazing. I can't believe what's happening in liberal America, where this is now the norm. Tom Fitton, always appreciate the great work your organization does, unparalleled by any other out there in this country. Thank you, sir. Coming up, Nevada is another state in the Biden column that people are raising questions about. We'll talk to Wayne Allen Root about that, and still to come, Dick Morris on why a major drug company is taking American money and then shipping its China virus vaccines overseas. Much more to do here on the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax TV.